And thanks again for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, we've got Hesser's weather graphic and yellow areas signifying advisory type weather that's going to kick in from about, say, Galena on southwest. That's winter weather advisories, and that is for tonight and through Monday, 4 p.m. Monday. The extent of these advisories, again, kicking in tonight. And that's for anywhere from 3 to 5 inches of snow in some areas here, with winds gusting to 40 miles an hour. And then from roughly this area eastward, these are all wind advisories here for winds gusting to 40 miles an hour, and same time period beginning 4 p.m. Saturday and continuing through 4 p.m. Monday. And that extends into the upper Yukon Valley, and that's north of the Fairbanks area. And from there, take a look at the breakup map. Again, not a lot of change from yesterday. The Tanana River here, pretty much some areas of even mostly open water the entire stretch of the way until it hits the Yukon. And the Yukon River, I didn't see any of that on there, still solid white there. And the Kuskokwim, really not much change from what it's been for the last I guess, couple of weeks here, with the, of course, the breakup coming to a halt with a cold snap that moved in earlier on. And then south of the mountains here, south of the Alaska Range, about the same pattern, seeing stretches of mostly open and some open all along the Susitna River, Copper River as well. And for the fire danger map, some areas of high fire danger showed up today. In and around the Gulkana area there in the central Copper River Basin. That's for winds that gusting this afternoon, dry conditions with winds up to about 35 miles an hour at Gulkana there, and also some breezy conditions and low humidities on the north side of the Alaska Range. So couple areas of high fire danger in that area there. Delta Junction, winds gusting 35 miles an hour. And this danger, or the high fire danger, is for grass. That's the type of fuel. Otherwise, anything more than grass, bigger than that, didn't have any at all. So this is just for grasses. Anyway, moving on to satellite imagery. See clouds streaming northward here, but really not much in the way of any precipitation falling in through here, but that's a different story as you head south and get south of the Coast Range. Rain the entire day, falling from Seldovia, Homer, Port Graham, all along the North Gulf Coast into the northern panhandle today, and that just east of Kodiak Island, just cloudy skies there at the state airport. So rainfall is off to your east yet, and a lot of moisture coming northward. Next system down here coming onto the map, as you can see, kind of taking off to the northeast here, but that's going to be curving back to the north and northwest and end up right over the Susitna Valley by tomorrow afternoon. So rainfall will continue tonight and actually increase along with the winds as this system approaches. Otherwise, back to the west here, cold temperatures mostly in the 20s today with cloudy skies, areas of light snow, flurries, snow showers, nothing really significant at all. And we had a band of moisture lifting up along the Arctic coast, so that produced light snow in that area that extended down to Kotzebue Sound, north side of the Seward Peninsula. Had light snow and fog from the Bering Strait down to St. Lawrence Island, and a few snow showers around the Privilege, kind of in between this afternoon from this area of clouds here and the one to the west, and then a little bit stronger winds down across the eastern Aleutians. Nikolsky had winds gusting to about roughly 40 miles an hour, and snow fell the entire day at Unalaska, wet snow there, and more of a showery condition up here along the Alaska Peninsula. Got some clouds associated with a weak system dropping southeastward here into the Bering Sea out of the Russian Far East, and that'll probably bring some increase in the moisture there to the Pribilofs overnight tonight. On the chart, got one trough coming southward. That's what kicked those winds up over the eastern Aleutians, mostly around the Nikolsky. It's kind of isolated there, had the stronger gusts. Everywhere else was lighter, just isolated rain and snow showers, Adak and Atka, on out toward Shimia, mostly cloudy skies, and then the areas of light snow in the Arctic coast. Weak low here over the eastern interior, really not producing much of anything in the way of precipitation, just a lot more clouds, and the precipitation isolated along the Alaska Range or mostly to the south, and as I mentioned here along the North Gulf Coast. And here's the next system. We'll see tonight that pulls northward, and the front pushes right into along the southeast coast, so look for a big increase in the winds and rain becoming more steady and heavier, especially down over the southern areas tonight. And rain will extend northward to Juneau and then continue along the North Gulf Coast with probably gale force winds coming into the picture here in a narrow band in advance of that front. And probably won't get too far inland, but mixed rain and snow. Any elevation at all, again, will be in the form of snow. And they'll try to spill into the Cook Inlet area. Otherwise, to the north and the west, pretty dry conditions with winds not too bad, at least to start with. Up along the Arctic coast, from the Brooks Range on out, areas of light snow, cloudy skies, lower visibilities there, and probably some areas of IFR, especially along the eastern Arctic coast there. And scattered snow showers continue with pretty light winds out of the north, chilly conditions right on down the Alaska Peninsula. This system, again, will bring maybe a chance of snow, pretty good chance of snow to the Pribilof Islands, dropping southeast. Pretty weak, kind of a Bering Sea clipper type of system that's scooting off to the southeast. Actually, it'll weaken as it drops southeastward tomorrow, crosses eastern Aleutians with some rain and snow, and maybe a little bit chillier temperatures falling as those winds back around to the north, and they'll become west ahead of that. So once that passes through, you'll be back in probably the same pattern you saw today, minus the winds probably won't be as strong. Gradient definitely tightening here over the interior tomorrow. So as mentioned, wind advisories all through this area back to the southwest, turning into a winter weather advisory eventually. Doesn't look like a lot of moisture at this point by tomorrow afternoon here over the Yukon Delta. Scattered showers along the coast into maybe the Pribilofs, and about the same pattern we've seen there for the Alaska Peninsula, but this low pulls right up over the Susitna Valley tomorrow afternoon, 985 millibars. Rain and snow, cloudy skies, gusty winds in areas, especially turning an arm, depending on exactly how that low tracks in Anchorage Hillside. Windy in the Copper River Basin. Windier, though, as I mentioned, in the interior, gusts 40, maybe even 45 miles an hour. And rain will extend into the southeast coast here throughout the day, more showery down south. Short break in advance of this next system that's pulling up to the northeast, or to the north by about this time. They'll take a turn back to the northwest, and they'll kind of scoot up right along the southeast coast overnight tomorrow night. So that's good gale force winds there along the coast, and a good shot of rain as well. And we'll see for Monday, this low pulls back to the west and weakens. This one really moves right on in up to the eastern border here to just south of Eagle. Late in the day, late in the afternoon, the former one here weakens, pulls back toward the Norton Sound area with an area of light snow with that. And that'll also increase the gradient here over the Bering Sea, as well as the Brooks Range and the northwest coast here. That looks good for gusts 50 plus miles per hour, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, and pretty gusty winds north to northeasterlies there through the Bering Strait to St. Lawrence Island. Northwest winds and cold temperatures, snow showers right on down to sea level, coming back in toward the Alaska Peninsula during the day, and probably toward evening here for the eastern Aleutians, but amounts pretty light out here, and then none at all farther to the west under high pressure. Front moves in well into Canada by Monday afternoon with a lot of showers, mainly over the northern southeast coast, those tending to end with maybe a few sun breaks across Prince of Wales Island to Metlakatla as this ridging moves in for the afternoon. And an area of light snow up there with kind of breezy conditions. Some of that could be drifting, maybe blowing, but additional amounts don't look all that great. And that'll extend back toward the Kaktovik and Barter Island areas. Look for skies to maybe clear in the afternoon for Kenai Peninsula. Lows tonight, generally above zero along the Arctic coast, 0 to 5. Teens to mid-20s in the interior. Lower 30s south central Alaska. 35 to 42 for the Panhandle. Highs for tomorrow. Got mid-40s to lower to mid-50s in the Tanana Valley, and 40s to lower 50s to the south. Lows the following morning, looking pretty mild there for the Panhandle. Some areas in the 40s. 20s to mid-30s central interior, still 5 to 10 above for the Arctic coast. Highs in the afternoon shaping up like this, 45 to 50, 52 here, Tanana Valley eastward to the border. Cooler back to the west, upper 20s for the Seward Peninsula, 40s for the Panhandle, mid-40s south central Alaska.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
First line weather graphic here for Sunday morning. Nothing but marginal VFR here, all of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians right up into Bristol Bay and into the southwest mountains here in part of the Kuskokwim Delta. Also some areas of IFR up along the central eastern Brooks Range, central eastern Arctic coast. VFR in between or from the upper Yukon Valley here and actually down to the Alaska Range. Then it goes marginal and this area slipping on up brings IFR to the Kenai Peninsula into Prince William Sound, extending down across the southern southeast coast. And then for tomorrow afternoon, we've got IFR here over toward the east to the border there, all the way up into Lynn Canal and Glacier Bay, back along the North Gulf Coast, into Prince William Sound, possibly reaching the Talkeetnas, across southern Kenai into, looks like southern Cook Inlet, right up into the Alaska Range. Marginal VFR, now some IFR there for the eastern Aleutians, and IFR holding central eastern Arctic coast, and an expanded area of VFR in the interior. And for the Monday morning outlook here, IFR, Selkirk Valley, north side of the Seward Peninsula there, right across Kuskokwim Valley into the Alaska Range, northern Alaska Range there, looks like some IFR, and then from the eastern North Gulf Coast down across the Panhandle, IFR, and also along the north side of the Alaska Peninsula and the Aleutians. Now for Monday afternoon, that area pretty much stays put there, not extending as far west. Otherwise, no change out in the Bering marginal VFR. The entire area here painted in the marginal VFR category, including the Aleutians. Lots of lower flying conditions here across southern Alaska with the IFR, again, Prince William Sound. North Gulf Coast, now marginal for the Panhandle. Still some VFR here north of the Alaska Range from the Tanana Valley. Looks like into the Koyukuk with that narrow band IFR, otherwise eastern central Arctic coast and north slope marginal. And for Anaktuvik, looks like IFR to start, but probably pretty rapidly becoming VFR, probably by late morning, if not by noontime, and even better conditions for adding it, just starting out marginal and then quickly becoming VFR throughout the morning. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR, IFR pretty likely on both eastern approaches here for both passes. That same pattern also for Rainy. IFR likely on the eastern entrance, otherwise marginal. And for windy, marginal VFR with better conditions on the north side, VFR out the north entrance into the valley. And Isabel, marginal VFR possible here in the southern approach, otherwise VFR. And same forecast for Mentasta. Possible marginal VFR, southern entrance, otherwise pretty good. Tanita, marginal VFR becoming IFR as moisture continues to flow in from the southeast. And Portage, IFR definitely, maybe even low IFR in that eastern entrance. Chilkoot and White, IFR becomes marginal. And for the freezing levels here at the surface, again, Kodiak Island hugging the North Gulf Coast down across the Panhandle, 2,000 feet. A little bit farther north here along the central and southern southeast coast. We've got 2,000 to 4,000 feet out, way out west there over the Aleutians. Otherwise, we still got it at the surface south of the Pribilofs there, cutting across on Alaska Island. Icing, really nothing significant out here in the west, Bering Sea Aleutians, or the northern interior. Most significant area would be along the North Gulf Coast here and down across the Panhandle. Again, areas of considerable moderate in there, as that moisture flow interacts with the terrain as it makes landfall. Not all above about 6,000 feet. For the jet stream here, upper trough, couple of centers here, one over the Russian Far East or near the Bering Strait, the other one just west of Bristol Bay, and northerlies coming down across the central Bering, turning south-southeast, about 70 knots to start here on the North Gulf Coast and diminishing inland. Main jet riding up into and actually almost across Dixon Entrance. As for 9,000 feet, northwest flow here, 25 to 45 knots here over the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Pretty good clip there, diminishing as you get into Bristol Bay and over the interior. A couple of troughs or low centers right through here. Southeast, 55 knots with this low pulling northwestward there. 50 to 55 knots coming into the North Gulf Coast into the Prince William Sound area. And at 3,000 feet, Again, that low coming up at this level as well, 35 to 40 knot winds on the west side of that, right on down the southeast coast, lighter inland, about 25 out of the east here over the central interior, much lighter to the north, and northwesterlies 15 to 35 knots over the southern Bering Sea and the Aleutians, with that occasional moderate chop here for the central Aleutians and also for Prince William Sound on down the southeast coast.
It's kind of hard to explain how important weather is to our job. I mean, it really affects everything we do.
In 2018, NOAA launches the GOES-S satellite, which takes its place in orbit as GOES-17. Working together with GOES-16, the two new geostationary weather satellites will provide constant watch over the United States and the Western Hemisphere, from the west coast of Africa all the way to New Zealand, helping monitor severe storms, wildfires, and daily weather patterns. Since its launch, NOAA's GOES-16 satellite has already demonstrated its critical capability for keeping our nation weather ready. Throughout the active 2017 hurricane season, GOES-16 delivered imagery with detail and clarity never achieved before, with 4 times greater resolution than previous NOAA satellites, and delivered this imagery faster than ever before, helping forecasters predict the path of a storm and where and when it will intensify. These accurate and timely forecasts allowed for emergency managers to prepare for evacuations, map flood areas, and save lives.
So the weather matters. The weather matters before the weather happens, and the weather matters after the event happens, because what we're able to do to prepare, allocate resources, provide information to the public through the media beforehand, and what we're able to do afterwards, how and when the waters are going to recede, so we know we can get vehicles with life-saving food and shelter equipment down a particular highway. All of that depends on the forecast.
In the GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to provide critical data for the westernmost United States, Alaska, and Hawaii.
We're talking about getting data updates in just seconds, so we can quickly spot wildfires and closely monitor the wind direction and their intensity. The crispness of the data coming in at a faster rate will also help with fog forecasts. We can see the moment the strata starts to develop or when it starts to move out.
Like GOES-16, GOES-17 carries a suite of advanced instruments, including tools for sophisticated earth sensing, lightning detecting, solar imaging, and space weather monitoring. As an equal partner in the sky, GOES-17 will expand coverage of the advanced baseline imager technology across the Pacific Ocean, allowing meteorologists and local officials to see severe weather systems developing in real time.
So instead of seeing something, say, this large, that as you zoom in actually gets kind of blurry, you're actually going to see something that is much more detailed.
In its GOES West position, GOES-17 will be able to monitor conditions in the western U.S. like wildfires, coastal fog, and atmospheric rivers when storms from the Pacific dump heavy rain and snow over the western U.S. GOES-17 will have a major impact on fighting wildfires in California. Up-to-the-minute information and crisp detail allows forecasters to spot fires faster than ever before, even before the first 911 calls come in, and to better track and predict the path of large, dynamic, and dangerous fires.
It's amazing to see what we can get and at the level of detail and the speed that we can get the information down into the ground that makes our decision-making way more accurate.
With a view of the Pacific Ocean, GOES-17 will also provide a critical eye over shipping lanes vital to the U.S. economy, protecting cargo and passenger vessels from dangerous ocean storms. GOES-17 will also provide a high-definition view over Alaska, resulting in better weather forecasts and improved monitoring of sea ice, wildfires, and volcanic ash. The advanced baseline imager on GOES-17 can distinguish between clouds, sea ice, and snow cover, a critical need during Alaska's dark, cloudy winter months. GOES-17's geostationary lightning mapper monitors lightning flashes, including the in-cloud lightning most prevalent in severe storms, helping forecasters determine when a storm is forming, intensifying, and becoming more dangerous. Thanks to GOES-17, emergency managers will be equipped with more accurate weather predictions and faster warnings, providing a real impact, saving lives, and protecting infrastructure. Watching over Earth from 22,300 miles above, GOES-S will provide vital data to our weather-ready nation.
Hi, I'm JPSS. I'm a high-tech weather satellite that orbits our planet. I do something called a polar orbit. I circle the Earth from North Pole to South Pole, over and over, while the Earth spins. While I do that, I get lots of information about what's going on around the globe. I watch storms, clouds, and rain. I take the temperature of the ocean, measure air quality, ozone health, and take pictures of the land and sea. This information is used for all kinds of things. It helps us take care of our coasts and oceans and all the amazing things that live there. It helps us monitor harmful weather events like floods and droughts and measure the health of the environment. Most importantly, it helps us predict weather 3 to 7 days in the future. That means I can be a big help ahead of storms, where future warnings are important. I send information to the National Weather Service. They use the information to create forecasts. The forecasts are shared with people all over the country to help prepare for weather emergencies. So you look to the sky and wave. I'll be flying by.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Today's sea ice analysis, still soaring new ice increasing here south of St. Lawrence Island and expanding a little bit to the south as well as back to the west. And maybe a little bit of an increase here still going on in Norton Sound and about the same along the southwest coast. Coastal water forecasts, something like this: south 30 knots on the south coast tomorrow, 13-foot seas, southeast 30 to 35 knots there with the gales on the extreme north coast tomorrow afternoon. Southeast only 10 knots for Lynn Canal, but we're looking at southeast 25, gusts 35 here for Stevens Passage, and gales with gusts to 40 knots for Clarence Strait. And then for Monday, after the storm moves through Sunday night, Monday afternoon, west winds 30 to as high as 35 knots here on the central coast. Right out of the west, west 25 Clarence Strait, south 25 Stevens Passage, southeast 35 knots for Lynn Canal, and then back down to 20 here up to the north. And for tomorrow, Prince William Sound, east winds 45 knots, not quite a storm, but getting close, and seas at about 10 feet. Southeast 40 for the eastern North Gulf Coast with seas near 20 feet. And for the western North Gulf Coast here, southwest at 30, 14-foot seas, northwesterly gales for the Barren Islands, northwest 30 for Kamishak Bay. Cook Inlet, north winds 30 knots, seas 8 feet. And for the following day, south to southwest winds now for Cook Inlet coming down to 20 knots, and west 20 for Kamishak Bay across the Barrens, and small craft advisories west-southwest 25 for the North Gulf Coast, so those seas 8 to 12 feet. Much lighter winds coming in for Prince William Sound on Monday, southwest 15, and seas back down to 2 feet. For Shelikof Strait, west winds 25 knots there, turn northwest 30 on the east side of Kodiak tomorrow afternoon, and southwest of Sitkinak here, northwest at 20. Otherwise, the Alaska Peninsula, small craft advisories, northwest 25, northwest 25 also for Bristol Bay. Outlook for Monday, west 30 for Bristol Bay. Also here, Sitkinak to Castle Cape, west winds 30 knots, 25 knot westerlies there for Kodiak Island, and 25 knot westerlies for the Alaska Peninsula, seas 8 to 10 feet. For the Fox Islands tomorrow, winds mostly 25 knots, westerly for Unmac Island, northwest 15 to 25 for Unalaska Island, west 25, Adak and Atka, turn northwest there from probably Amchitka on out to Shimia. And then lighter winds out west on Monday, 15 knots from the northwest, and northwest 20 to 25, Adak and Atka. And about the same, pretty uniform wind pattern across the Fox Islands here, northwest or west-northwest, 20 to 25 knots. Southwest coast tomorrow, northwest 25 south of Nunivak Island. Otherwise north 15 for the Pribilofs. A little bit brisker there for St. Matthew Island, northerlies at 20. 25 knot winds from the north here north of Nunivak Island, but back down to 20 knots for Norton Sound and St. Lawrence Island. Then on Monday, increase in the winds, we've got gales back in the forecast there for St. Lawrence Island. North 35 knots, northwest 30 here along the southwest coast, and St. Matthew Island 20 knots for the Pribilofs. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, easterlies 10 knots become northeast here for the central coast all the way down to Cape Thompson, and then northwest at 10. Not too bad in the winds up there on Sunday tomorrow. And then Monday, picking up here, north 30 knots from Wales to Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, northeast at 30 with definitely probably some higher gusts. And then brisk wind advisories on the western coast as well as the east side here, east-northeast at 25 knots. Central coast, though, only looking at 20 knot winds. And for tonight, not much wind up there tonight as well, but some areas of light snow over the Brooks Range and maybe the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, possibly the west side, but not too bad. Dry over the interior, and scattered snow showers continue here in the southwest. Probably some clearing, though, for Bristol Bay. This weak system may increase the snow for the Pribilofs, and eventually that'll slide into the Aleutian tomorrow. And this system will bring the rain and wind increasing along the southeast coast tonight and eventually on the North Gulf Coast. Tomorrow that pulls right in over the western Susitna Valley in the afternoon. And kind of a wet day here across south central Alaska, North Gulf Coast and the northern Panhandle. A little bit of improvement there for the southern Panhandle. That next system here ready to move in for the strong winds and rain heavy at times Sunday night, early Monday. And that pulls right up into an area between Northway and Eagle in the afternoon here. The former one pulls back to the west with some snow and gusty winds, Yukon Delta to St. Lawrence Island, as well as up along the Arctic coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.